Okay then, our render has completed. So if we look at our render layers, we have ground and we have render layer. And they've got those separate pass indexes that we allocated before, so we can separate the two later on. So let's composite these together. So they show the background, the shadows, but not our plane. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to the node editor, which we're already in for our material. And this is currently showing the principled shader for our object. Let's come down here where it says Node to display and edit compositing, use nodes, backdrop, and what we can then see is our render nodes here. So here's our composite, which is going to be rendered out. Here are our render layers coming in combined. So we need to fine tune this a bit. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to expand this up a little bit. And in order to see what we're doing in this window, not this one, we need a viewer node. So let's add an output viewer. I'm just going to keep my finger on shift and drag down this line to put a junction in and split the two. So now you can see it's in here. I'm going to come to my options over on this right hand side and press fit. So now we're seeing our composite fitted into there. So we need to add some things between here and here to make this work. So I'm going to simply shift D to duplicate this and shift D again. So we've got basically 3 inputs. Okay. In fact, we only need 2 render layer inputs. So we take the image out of our render layers and plug it in there. We're back how we were before. We need to bring our background image in. So let's go input image, bring that up here. And if I control shift click, because I've got node wrangler still on, let's click that. We need to see our image and it should already be in here. Look, if we press on the little arrows, background plate, let it catch up. Doesn't seem to want to load, it's just taking its time. It's because I'm recording this tutorial at the same time, I believe. There we go, it's populated through. Okay, so fundamentally what we want to do is mix these two over the top of one another. So if we were to just add a color mix node and plug our image in the bottom. So basically the way the hierarchy works, whatever you plug in the bottom slot will appear over the top of this one. And let's control shift click to view that. Doesn't seem to be working. If we press the alpha channel, then it does seem to be working. Okay, but that's not quite good because we've got the shadows and we've got this background plate, but we can't separate the two. So what can we do? Well, we need to use those index passes to help us out. So I'm going to change this second input so it's just the ground, like so. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a mix node in here. We're going to bring this into here. We're going to bring the output from our background into here, and we're going to divide them by one another. So what that's doing is separating the shadows out, look. But we've still got this and it's looking a bit strange. So let's shift D this divide node, like so. Let's make this multiply. And let's take our background, plug that in here. And you can see that it's multiplying whatever we've got here over our background. And we're seeing the shadows look now. Let's clamp this so we don't get any artifacting around the outside. Now that's done, we basically want to tell it we want to mix this over the top of our image again. So we bring our image back over the shadows. So we've got this mix node set up. Let's take the output of this and put this in the bottom. Let's take the output of this and plug that in there, which is already there. And let's see the output from this one. And we've got our shadows and our object back together again. But what we're going to do is use the index to denote where we want things. So we're going to use those indexes now. So we're going to use an ID mask. So we're using a mask that's going to define this by this ID. And you'll see this index here. And if we go 1, then what that does is put it over here. So all that's left to do is put the background image back over the top. So how are we going to do that? We can add another one into here. So I'm going to shift D, bring this down here, and let's plug that in there. Let's plug that in the ID index as well. And let's change this one to 2. So if we look at what we've done here, we've basically used this 2 index to say, right, knock out the object but keep the shadows. And they've been multiplied over the top of the background. We've then used this ID mask, which is this thing here, which is defining the object, to then bring this object back over the top. And we're now seeing our object with its shadows over the top of the image. Now, one thing I did notice with using these ID masks to mask out things is the ID masks currently, if you keep your finger on Alt in this window here, I should be able to zoom in and out. Let's fit it in. Actually, that's all right. The edges here are not particularly good. So let's see if we can. So the edges are a bit rough around this edge. It's a bit of aliasing. So what I'm going to do is, before these ID masks are plugged in, if you see, they're a bit rough around the edges, even when they're at full. So you can see this is stepping. So what I'd like to do is get rid of that stepping, this aliasing, and you'll see there's an anti-aliasing option here. So let's tick that. That'll do a certain job, but not much of one. And let's come down to this ID mask and anti-alias as well. But we've still got this issue with aliasing. So what can we do? Well, what we can do is, if we zoom in a bit using this zoom control just here, we could add a feather. So let's look at the final result by alt-clicking here. Let's keep an eye on this stepping here. Select our ID mask and let's go add. And we're looking for dilate and erode. And we can change the methodology from step to feather. And let's look at what this looks like. So if we go 1, 2, 3, nothing seems to happen. But if we go the opposite direction, what you can see is at 0 the edge is there, but look at the edge of the mat. It starts to step in and smooth. So then when we look at the final result, we've got a smoother interaction. like so. So that's how to composite all your things together. Let's go fit again. We've now got our shadow casting onto our background. We've got our image over the top. That's fundamentally what I did to composite the things together. In the last video, I'm just going to show you how I added some additional light wrap to make this light hit this and spread around, mimicking the optical effect of light hitting something and wrapping around an object. And then also how I took this into Photoshop and just composited this female character back over the top of this to break the illusion.